This is the roll down, creating a bit of mobility through the spine. And then we go on to the port de bras, where we get a little bit more movement through the spine, but of lateral flexion, right and left. This is just the warm-up, and then we go into some pure lateral flexion. It's the easy version, then we make it a little bit harder. And this is the elephant cat, again focusing on mobility, flexion into extension. This is a cardio tram, great for mobility through the ankle joint, gets the heart rate up, quite a cardiovascular workout. This is footwork, starting to work through the hip joint, the knee joint in different directions, parallel lateral rotation and internal rotation, getting some work through the front of the shin, anterior tibialis. And then there's some lift and lowers, really great for ankle strengthening, going into what we call running, which is mobility and strengthening through the ankle joint. It's mid-back, so working through my lat muscles and my abdominal muscles. And feet and straps, so working independently, making sure I'm working left and right. Again, mobility, strengthening through the anterior and posterior muscles of the legs and hips. Just lift and lower. Great for mobility through the hamstrings, getting a nice stretch there. And this is a rollover, incorporating mobility through the spine, working abs and glutes and hamstrings. Lots of nice mobility, and then going into short spine. So more controlled on the roll down and getting some more mobility through the hips and the knees. This is a stag, very challenging for core strength and mobility through the hip joint. Fantastic exercise. Long stretch, great for the abdominals, lots of upper body strength as well, with a push-up at the end of it. Downward dog, mobility, thoracic extension, going down into plank for abdominals, and adding a snake in between. This is abduction with just one spring here, working through the glute muscles, the glute med, and inner thighs to even up. Working through the back, it's a straight back. Then adding a little bit more intensity by holding it back there. And a seated straight back as well, which isn't quite so challenging, but you can focus on a little bit more intensity. And a reverse fly, very challenging for your rhomboid muscles and your middle upper back muscles. And going into tricep extension, always good to work those triceps and biceps as well. So it's a full body workout, working front and back of the body. And a roll down, again mobility, getting some nice articulation through the spine, and adding oblique work here. Right and left, so that's quite challenging through the shoulders, through the obliques, with your core muscles working. Getting some rows with extension, working through middle back, a little bit more intense through that middle back, and then full range through the hips, the knees and the ankles into a squat, a deep supported squat there. Utilising the chair, this is the press, and adding rotation, so very challenging for stability through the whole of the body there, and then again upping the level with an arm extension, from a salute to an arm extension, and stabilising through the pelvis and keeping those legs nice and lengthened. This is a swan, and very challenging, working all of the posterior muscles, from the top of the head to the toes, and going into lateral flexion. The most challenging that we have in a lateral flexion. We've got all the balance, and going into mobility and full range through the abdominal muscles. So you've got extension going through neutral and coming into flexion, so really nice functional exercise for the whole of the core muscles.